Good evening. M.M Out here, over there, everywhere, and as usual, all over the place. But on this occasion, right here. With the Apostle Leroy Canterbury, he who contested the last two general elections in St. Peter. And here he comes now. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Mr.
Right.
Morris, good to be here with you again
Yes.
this week.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, what guides me on my show are the comments that I get. And that's what I use as a benchmark. Now, as I said several times before, M.M Out There is never rehearsed. He does not know what I'm going to talk about or what we're going to talk about. Because then that would be an act, and we're not putting on an act. You know? So that's how M.M Out There is. I have been bombarded with the subject of marijuana, especially among the young people who call me and who send comments electronically and so on. And they very much wanted me to dedicate a segment to it. And I'm going to ask you right off the bat, whatever I ask you is from them. Okay? Not only as a priest or an apostle, but as a politician, because you're both.
Yes, sir.
Are there any benefits in marijuana?
First of all, there are always benefits in any plant that God created. Okay? Again, sugar comes from a plant that God created. We have benefits from it. Okay? Everything that God creates, you can derive benefits from it. Okay? And that's the reality of what we have with any particular plant that has medicinal properties to it. So my answer to your question is yes, there are benefits.
Okay, you mentioned medicinal properties. Okay, well, my grandmother, and I always talk about my grandmother, she used to have all sorts of grass and bush if she's sick, tied up and put in her head in a bag and that sort of thing, right?
That's true.
So I could also say that some of that bush I see growing around the street and that sort of thing has medicinal purposes as well.
Of course, in the day, when I was younger, you would see the older folk, they're using the Cersei bush, bay leaf tea, they're using crotons and different things that they would boil. In many cases, I've even seen them boil the avocado pear leaf and made tea from it. So again, there are medicinal purposes, and whether they stumble onto them or not, but the reality is that each plant probably carries a certain level of medicinal quality.
Okay, I once spoke to an African shaman, a guy who deals with herbs and these sort of things. He told me that everything that grows has a medicinal purpose.
Okay.
And he pointed out to me that lions and dogs and that sort of thing, when they're sick, you see them eating grass, or it might not be grass, some sort of bush or something, to purge themselves or to heal themselves.
That's correct.
Right? He gave me that as an example. So it brings me to the fact, or to the point, so why are these things legal and marijuana is illegal?
Okay. Well, here's the reality is that many of those other plants aren't like marijuana. They're not used like marijuana. Many of those other plants aren't consumed in terms of inhalation. Okay? And this is one of the things that we have to understand. And I've made my point during the election, during my campaign, with many of the youngsters who were pushing for the legalization of marijuana. Now, there's a difference between decriminalization of marijuana and legalization of marijuana, which most people don't understand the difference. Okay, and what we have to understand is that here in Barbados, because we have such a small society, legalization of marijuana can prove detrimental to our society. Okay, And let me explain. I'm not saying that it's not something that can be looked at. I'm just saying that as far as moving Barbados forward, it can prove detrimental. Now, like alcohol, marijuana does not affect everyone the same way. Okay? There are guys who can smoke, they can chain smoke marijuana and not ever get high. Another guy can just use one spliff and it's over for him. Okay? So it affects people differently. Now, this is one of the things that I'm saying. If you're going to do it in this dimension, and you're also talking about using it for medicinal purposes, then it's something that has to be tested. It's something that has to be done and proven for a period of time. And I'm not just talking because they were talking about the studies that were done in other countries. I'm talking about having our own personal study done here in Barbados. You cannot take an assessment from, say, like Jamaica, where you're dealing with millions of people, and bring it to Barbados. We're just under 300,000 persons. So we have to look at these things critically, and from the area of medicine to the area of decriminalization, we have to look at this right across the board.
Okay. Well, we can't use Jamaica as an example because marijuana is illegal in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use a country that's recently Canada legalized marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually walk the street and smoke it.
Right.
And in places like Holland, for instance,
Yeah.
it's been legal for over 30 years.
Yes.
Where you can actually go into a shop, like how they have shops here,
Mm-hmm.
and purchase the different types of marijuana that you want.
Well, let them go to Holland and see the number of individuals who line the streets there and who line the airport and in the main town. Go there and see the amount of individuals who have been damaged by marijuana use. It's okay to talk about the legalization of it, but you have to look at impact. Okay, if its impact is more negative than positive, it really doesn't make any sense. Okay, and I want to go back to what I said earlier. It doesn't affect everyone the same way. I have my personal issues with it because of something I explained to you about my best friend when we were going to school. After we had finished school and I started to work, I came home one day and his mom was in the veranda crying. And she called me once I got off the bus stop was in front of the house, and as soon as I got off, they called me. She said, come. And I went there. One of the rascals in the area had given him his first spliff. When I went into his bedroom, and his father was just there sitting. When I went into his bedroom, he was just lying on the bed staring.
He was like hallucinating.
He was out of it. He
Totally out of it.
Totally out of it. He could have died. Okay? The guy said, well, if he knew that it would have affected him like that, he would not have given it to him. That's the issue. You do not know how it's going to affect an individual. And we've had cases here recently with someone who was given marijuana lace that actually ended up killing his own father and injuring a number of other individuals. So we're talking about impact.
Okay.
If the impact is more negative than positive, then it does not make sense. Okay? And that's one of the things that I stick with. I know individuals that use it. I know back in the day where I grew up, there were guys in the Foster Funland area, there were guys in the Sedge Farm
Yes,
area.
because they had some sort of a commune up there.
Yeah, but most of the guys that I spoke to, see, the thing is with those earlier rascals, when they smoke, they use it for what they call their meditation. They use it for meditational purposes.
And religious purposes.
Religious purposes, okay? And not only that, those guys used to eat. A lot of our youngsters are just smoking, they're not eating, and their bodies are deteriorating. So we're talking impact. If the impact is more negative than positive, it really doesn't make any sense.
So you're actually saying that if you're using this thing, just like any other narcotic,
Any other drug,
alcohol included, you're supposed to eat.
you make sure that you eat.
That's a very good point.
Most of our youngsters are just smoking. I mean, they wake up, they smoke, but they're not eating properly. these guys back in the day, they were on the idle food. That's what they call it back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
No meat.
They no meat. They
Yeah.
were on the idle food. They ate, they ate ground provisions and so on and so forth. Lived off the earth, which what most of us grew up doing here in Barbados. So the impact back then, even though it was being planted and being used, it was planted and being used. I remember there was one day I was actually out with my dad. We were cutting grass for sheep, and we decided that we were going to cross over to the other side of the cane field. And to do that, we went through the cane field. They said from one point to another, the best way to travel is a straight line.
The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, as the crow flies.
Yeah, so we went through the cane field, and as soon as we got to the middle of it, there was a whole area there that was cleared away, and these plants were growing. And I said, Dad, what is this? And he said, son, let's get over here. All right.
Yeah, he saw the danger.
He saw what was happening, okay? And so this is one of the things I need those who are watching to understand. We need assessment, we need critical assessment of this, and we have to look at impact.
Okay, now you mentioned about legalization and decriminalization of this marijuana, this cannabis. Could you explain for our viewers?
Okay.
Because I don't think they really understand.
All right.
What is legalization and what is decriminalization?
Okay, if when you decriminalize marijuana, if a person is actually within a day-to-day basis, if they have marijuana on them, they can't be arrested. Okay, it's decriminalized.
So that's decriminalization.
Okay,
so you can actually walk around Bridgetown smoking this thing.
Exactly.
So that is decriminalization.
Now, when it's decriminalized, it doesn't mean you can plant it.
Mm-hmm.
When it's legalized, is when you can plant it.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of individuals, people think when you hear decriminalization of it, means we can plant it. It doesn't mean you can plant it. It doesn't mean you can harvest it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it just literally means that it's okay for you to have it on your person.
Because then the government will come into play then to have it shared.
Yeah.
Because I guess then they will be the ones doing the growing.
Right, because everyone knows that marijuana is a cash crop. On an economical level, it is a cash crop.
Mm-hmm. Despite being illegal.
It is a cash crop. Whether illegal or illegal, it is a cash crop. And it's a danger in terms of trafficking right across the whole entire world.
Okay. So, brings me to this point. If it is legalized, wouldn't it take the sting out of the danger in it, the shooting and the...
No, it most definitely will not. Even without it being legalized, you're having these problems. What do you think will happen once you legalize it?
But then, wouldn't the government be... It's like, remember alcohol was prohibited. Remember it was illegal to drink alcohol in the United States one time? Mm-hmm. And there was gang warfare.
Yeah. And
it forced them to legalize it.
Yeah. Well, has it stopped the gang warfare?
Yes, but it brought it to almost a standstill.
Well, not in reality. When you're talking gang warfare, I mean, which ethnicity are you dealing with?
Okay.
You see, you don't see gang warfare within the white community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You don't see gang warfare within the Jewish community. Mm-hmm. You don't see it within the Indian community.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. You see it in the black community.
The black community, the Hispanic community.
Yeah,
okay.
But that's black too, although they may think differently, but they're black.
Which, we're talking about this level, and so we just close this off here. But there's a reality that we have to understand. We have to make sure that we understand impact, and we understand this is something that must be properly and carefully thought through.
Mm-hmm. Time. Okay. That's the end of part 1. We're going to be back with part 2 very, very shortly with the Apostle Leroy Scambury. Thank you for part 1.
Thank you, sir.